Okay, topic 5.10, the impacts of urbanization. So I think everybody knows what urban means. It's a environment where you have a lot of hardscape, you have hard surfaces, you have businesses, factories, housing, versus rural where you have green open spaces. Now you can make urban places more green, with parks, and in Long Beach we have a pretty good amount of parks available to us. But over time across the world, the shift has been from rural areas to more urban areas. And that's, had an impact on the environment and socially as well. So right now, 80% of Americans live in urban areas. A city, some house, suburb, suburb near a large city. And if you look at California, especially, we tend to live right along the coast. And I came across this. Hopefully, you can recognize both of these areas. This is LA, the LA area. Long Beach is about right here. And over here, take a second. Can you recognize this city? Very famous. Some of you have mentioned wanting to visit. This is New York City, NYC, the Big Apple. And the darker purple areas, show you the thicker, denser, developments. And if you look at it, LA is kind of spread out a little bit more. It kind of surprised me. You have a little more density, a little more dark, purple here, kind of at the heart of New York City. It's hard to find, here we have that dark purple here. But we have spread out San Fernando Valley, Santa Monica area over here, central LA, then down into parts of Orange County. So just an interesting little comparison. Now, see if you can identify this right here is the most populated city in North America. See if you can identify it before I tell you what it is. What city is this? This is Mexico City. One of the oldest, densest, most continually habited places in the entire world is Mexico City. Sits at 8,000 feet of elevation in a near in a tropical warm latitude. Just a really good place to live and to grow crops. Don't have a whole lot of diseases, so that's why people from the beginning of settlement on this continent have liked to live in Mexico City. About 22 million people live in and around Mexico City. Now, so in North America, this is number one, is Mexico City. Number two is this city. Can you guess what this is? Yeah, this is NYC, coming in slightly behind at 21 million. Not nearly as old and established as Mexico City, but New York City, number two. Number three is this city that you will recognize as LA. Beautiful. This is my favorite shot of LA. One of my favorite shots of LA are the winter, when you see the snow-capped mountains of the San Gabriel Mountains right behind. Mount Baldy being the tallest at 10,000 feet. Hopefully you guys will get a chance to hike up in those mountains. It's beautiful, beautiful area to hike in. I forgot to put number three. So number third on the list is LA. Number fourth on the list, most populated, is this beautiful American city that my son just moved to for 6 months to do a internship. Can you identify this? This is number four. Yes, good job. This is the Windy City, Chicago. Beautiful. Look at this park. Oh, man, I want to ride my bike down there. Check it out. The Sears Tower right here. I want to go up to the top of the Sears Tower. But I hear I didn't quite get a chance to do everything that I wanted to. But the architecture in Chicago is amazing. This is number 5 on the list. Number 5 most populated North America. This might give you a little bit of, I wonder what this is kind of thinking. Anybody? This is in Canada. It's not the capital of Canada, but it's the most populated is Toronto. Okay, so I took you around North America. Let's go around the world right here. The very top, number 1 most populated place in the world is Tokyo. Actually, go back for a second. I forgot to put the amounts. LA is about 14 million. 14 million. Chicago is about 7 million. About half. You know what LA is. Or hold on. Let me double check that number. Yeah. I got that wrong. Chicago's 10 million. Go back. 7 million is Toronto. So 10 million people live in and around Chicago, and then 7 million are in Toronto. Now, Tokyo. Take a guess. How many million people live here? What do you think? 38 million. Oh my gosh. It's a lot of people. 38 million. Can you guess number 2, the second most populated? This is New Delhi, or I think now it's just called Delhi in India. This is, I think, Red Castle or Red something. The Red Fort, I believe. Down to the left. This is also, well, these are all, well, the top 3 are in Asia. Number 3, this is Shanghai, China. I think you've all heard of Shanghai. I forgot to tell you. Delhi, India is 33 million. Shanghai is 30 million. And last but not least, right here, beautiful beach. This is in the Americas. It is in Brazil, but it's not Rio. This is Sao Paulo. Little squiggly thing there. Sao Paulo coming in at 22 million. Okay, so about the size of New York. So Sao Paulo is one step above Mexico City. So Sao Paulo is the most populated spot in the Americas. Very similar to Mexico City, but I think slightly ahead. All right, so that was a fun little, thanks for indulging me. This is a little video showing the growth of Los Angeles through the years from the 1800s, just showing the urban areas building out, and I'm trying to pick out, yeah, this is Long Beach here. Oops, keep going video. Yeah, I can't, but yeah, right above this, in this area here, this is Long Beach. So Long Beach has been a pretty settled area for a long time. Ooh, filling a lot in the 70s. Look at that. 80s, spreading out and out and out. And I believe this is going to end in 2000. I think it'd be interesting to see what the 2000s are. And just bringing it in even closer, this is a zip code map of Long Beach. You'll see this big gap. That's Signal Hill. And you see this gap out here for Lakewood. But here in North Long Beach, we are the top 2 most populated zip codes, 90805, and I think this is 90804. Goes Wilson High School is right here. Kind of goes through the central area of Long Beach. Okay, let's get into some of the nitty gritty here. So this urbanization can lead to depletion of resources like water. So pumping water out of the ground, keeping it from soaking in, can lead to saltwater intrusion. Saltwater into the hydrologic cycle. So, basically the water cycle. And the way this works, when you have all this fresh water in the ground, it pushes against the salt water from the ocean, so it's equal. When you start pumping out the water, removing it from the ground, like we do it in Long Beach, we pump our groundwater to come through our taps. We do it in the San Joaquin Valley and other places for agriculture. It reduces the pressure, and that therefore allows that saltwater pressure to push in and then infiltrate the land, and that can turn, these pumps where we're pumping out, getting that fresh water, it can turn salty. So what we need to do is add extra water on these little barriers to keep that salt water from intruding. And I have a little map right here that some of you, I think most of you are familiar with Huntington Beach. Along the coast, you have some higher areas and some lower areas. Well, the lower areas is where there's a lot of sand down there and silt, and salt water can push through. So what they've done, see all these green dots? These are all barrier wells that have been drilled. And what they'll do is they'll take treated wastewater and inject them down into those wells. And that will kind of form a curtain of fresh water, of pressure, to keep the salt water out. So treated fresh water. Probably water that would be good enough to drink, but by some laws and codes, we can't do it. So, write that down. Treated fresh water injected. Now it forms a barrier. There's one here, and also if you know the San Gabriel River, where it comes out right by PCH, where PCH goes over to Seal Beach. If you've driven that area, PCH and 2nd Street, right around there are also these barriers that are built. I think it's called the Los Alamitos barrier. But you see where these riverbeds are. This is where the ground is low, and there's the water table is very low through here where the salt can creep in. So the Santa Ana River, and the next up here is San Gabriel. So there are big curtains of well water. And let's see, they kind of build some out here. The scientists just know where to put these wells to keep that salt water from coming in. All right, so urbanization is very energy intensive, land intensive. We just have to put a lot of resources into it. Now, I just want to also make clear, when you have a lot of people, if you can get them in a smaller area, it can be a lot more efficient to provide services for them than if they're all spread out. So it's kind of a happy medium. If they're not out in the countryside, kind of being self-sufficient, having them in smaller, urban areas is good. But we don't. Probably the worst way to do it is to have these suburbs like we see here, where everybody is spread out around the central city core, and they have to drive everywhere. So you're burning a lot of gas. You're doing a lot of transportation. But let's get through some of the bare facts here. So burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, and landfills. So we have to take land and then bury garbage onto that land where it can pollute the land. Water can percolate through it and pollute the water table. And all of this landfills release CO2 and fossil fuels, of course. So this creates more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Remember, that's why we see the green bins. So let's put that down here. Perfect. The green bins we all have now. That's a law that was created to reduce CO2 levels. Or CO2 output, I should write. CO2 production. Yeah, that's better. So by having those green bins and putting the food scraps in there, the green waste, we can keep it from the garbage stream, and that can reduce the amount of CO2 that we create. So that is directly a law that's been created here in California to help alleviate some of the effects that we have been putting on the environment, adding more CO2. So when you go that extra step, I know I'm kind of annoyed right now. It's a different thing for me to learn. That's something you're actively doing to reduce CO2 in the atmosphere, reducing global warming, reducing climate change, reducing these big weather events that are occurring more and more. So in these urban areas, we have a lot of impervious surfaces. Impervious. In this case, water can't go through it, at least very well. Roads, bridges, buildings. So roads, buildings, sidewalks, parking lots. They don't allow the water to get down to the soil, so it can't get into the water table, more likely to flood. And here's a couple examples. This is the typical school in the LA area where you have all this blacktop, this playground. This whole area is blacktop, the whole thing. Or asphalt. So what a better option would be to have more grass, right? That grass that can absorb rainfall and not heat up as much, create the urban island heat island effect. However, it does take resources to maintain all that grass, and that grass takes water, so it is a trade-off. One thing we have all over LA here is the LA River flood control channel. It is the river, but it's been changed to help with flood control. So flood water can enter here and then safely, hopefully, get to the ocean without overflowing, flooding, homes and businesses. And this is DeForest Park. Yes. So that's DeForest Park. Hopefully, a lot of you have seen there. This is the I forget what they call it. It's that wilderness area right south of it. If you look up in the distance, you see Signal Hill. So that's fun. And that's the downtown buildings you can see in the port. And if you look at right here, it's about a 50-foot wall, and that's a levee, basically a dam to keep water out, because it's pretty low over in this part. It's not that far above sea level. So if this levee were to break, water could pour out. And during high rain events, like today's a high rain event, water will flood DeForest Park. This is kind of like a big overflow basin, and a lot of it's now is being used. It's always been an overflow basin. Now it's being more intentional. More water will be pumped into there to help grasses grow, shrubs, and also kind of to treat wastewater. So urban sprawl is a word we need to discuss. Sprawl, that term. Just instead of going up into buildings, just going out further and further and further, which can take way more land. It takes up more land, and it takes more energy in terms of transporting people back and forth from homes, going shopping, getting the resources they need. Going from high population density, which is actually very efficient. So these low density suburbs are the problem. That's the problem. How do we get people to live in higher density? People are accustomed, some people anyway, to these low density living. And there is a big environmental trade-off cost to that low density living. So they spread onto rural lands, and then that's where you have, you know, the impact on wildlife, more CO2 production, tons of impacts. So here's some issues that crop up. You know, air pollution that I've touched on from all the extra emissions, and that leads to a lot of health effects. And these health effects aren't always, asthma is something, you know, it comes on quickly and it's, you know, it's really obvious, but there's tons of them that just get exacerbated, like cardiovascular issues, all sorts of breathing, respiratory illnesses just get exacerbated with higher air pollution levels. Heat islands, you know, cities are hotter. These hard surfaces absorb and just retain more heat, and that makes people use more AC, which creates more heat because AC units, you know, get hot, and that's a positive feedback loop. That, of course, the AC unit burns, has a high energy demand, which creates more CO2 in our atmosphere. So the resources that we have to, you know, get more water, more land, generating waste, got to transport this garbage over further, longer distances. We got to deal with the sewage. And of course, there's a social impact. There's a human impact of, you know, where people are living. Where is the pollution sources? Almost always they tend to be in low income communities where people have fewer resources to deal with the consequences. So this is something that California has tried to deal with this, but it's still a major problem. One way that could be dealt with are with these. These are electric battery-powered semi-trucks. There's a huge issue right now. The Port of Long Beach and other businesses could move to these because right now these are all private. You know, the truck drivers own their own tractors like this. So the cost is pushed off onto them, which they don't have the resources. The port, the big shipping companies, they do have the resources. They need to be responsible for doing this. So hopefully California will lead the way and do that. That would be the biggest impact for us in Long Beach. Write that down for electric trucks to be implemented at the port. If we have those electric trucks, we would be so much better off, because our main issue is all the pollution from the 710 and all the traffic in the port. So if we get that, we will be in business. Let's just hope. So a suggested skill for this topic, what you see right here, you know, or talk about the advantages, disadvantages of solutions. This right here is a wildlife corridor that's being constructed right now at Liberty Canyon on the 101 freeway in Agora Hills. So Liberty Canyon. This is the 101 Agora Hills. And the idea is for mountain lions to use this. It's a mountain lion, so they can get across the freeway without getting killed. Okay, great idea, right? So we definitely should be going towards this. Just some issues that you need to be able to discuss, you know, potentially on the exam. So this would reduce habitat fragmentation that we've talked about before, keeping the land together. More species are allowed to exist. Those internal and margin species can survive better this kind of way, but these are expensive to build, right? You got to get the land, you got to construct it. I've watched it being constructed for a while myself. In a possible consequence, this might attract predators. Now for mountain lions, they don't have any predators, but other sorts of species, it might reduce them. Maybe the mountain lions will just stay here and eat other species that are coming across it. It's hard to tell what's going to happen. It, of course, allows a safe movement of species, but You got to put them in the right place. What if this is not in a good spot? We are not mountain lions. We can study them, but we're not mountain lions. And another advantage, fewer vehicle collisions. But then, a disadvantage, this bridge might create some sort of a driving hazard in itself. So overall, definitely worthwhile to do for us to make those changes to give animals and wildlife a chance. But just you need to be able to critically think through some of the positives and negatives of those solutions.